Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our webinar, the Apprenticeship Levy, making it work for you. Just to recap your joining instructions, you'll be able to hear us. Fortunately, we won't be able to hear you, but please utilise the chat function to give any questions that you may have during the course of the presentation. If we don't get a chance to answer them during the presentation, we'll endeavour to answer them afterwards and send you emails regarding that. Just to introduce ourselves, my name is Tony Hornsby. I'm a partner at Mitchell's Accountants in Chesterfield. We specialise in accounts for care homes. I'm joined today by Bob Clifford from Learning Unlimited. Bob and Learning Unlimited specialise in delivering apprenticeship training nationwide. So the Apprenticeship Levy. So things that we're going to be capturing today. Are you affected by the Apprenticeship Levy? What is involved in your annual pay bill? How much will I pay under the Apprenticeship Levy? What's classified as a connected company under the Apprenticeship Levy? Who pays the levy? Can you avoid paying the levy? Short answer to that one's no, straight away, unfortunately. And the bottom line benefits of apprenticeships.
A very good morning from me too. Thanks, Tony, and thanks everybody for joining us today. So you'll hear a bit more from me later on in about 10 minutes time or so. I'll tell you just a little bit about our organisation, Learning Unlimited, why we're here today at all, why we're talking about apprenticeships and why they're so important and so good, something about the apprenticeship reforms from a training provider perspective, and then I'll take the opportunity, if I might, to tell you why you might like to engage with us as your training group.
Right, initially the nitty-gritty, unfortunately. Firstly, are you affected by the Apprenticeship Levy? Well, you'll have to pay into the Apprenticeship Levy on the 6th of April 2017 if you have an annual pay bill of more than £3 million. Also, if you are connected to other companies or charities for employment allowance purposes, and in total the annual pay bill of the connected employers is more than £3 million. So what's in the annual pay bill? Well, the annual pay bill, it's annual payments to employees that are accessible to Class 1 employers' national insurance. Now, the annual payments include gross wages, commissions, bonuses. It's for employees earning below the earning threshold. Also, payments to earnings of employees between the age of 16 and 21, and also payments to apprentices under the age of 25. What's not included? Well, earnings of employees under 16. Earnings of employees who aren't subject to UK national insurance contributions, and also earnings on which Class 1A is payable, such as benefits in kind. So how much will you pay for the Apprenticeship Levy? Well, the Apprenticeship Levy is calculated at 0.5% of your pay bill. So employers who are not connected to another company will have an allowance of £15,000 a year to offset against the 0.5% of their pay bill. That's calculated at £3 million at 0.5%. Any apprenticeship levy is allocated into an apprenticeship service account. In order to incentivise investment into the apprenticeships, the government will pay an additional 10% of the amount contributed into the service account. The funds in the service account can then be utilised to provide apprenticeship training. The funds are spent on a first-in, first-out basis and expire after 24 months. So it's recommended that you plan the utilisation of the fund to ensure it's not wasted. Typically, we're saying that it's better if you do this consistently over the 24 months, rather than roll it all up towards the end and try and use it all in the last month. To go through an easy example. A £5 million employee is not connected to another company. We've got a £5 million annual pay bill. The annual apprenticeship levy at 0.5% works this out at £25,000. You have an allowance of £15,000, so that means the total amount paid into the apprenticeship service account is £10,000. The government topped this up with a 10% top up, and so the total amount from a £5 million pay bill into your apprenticeship service account is £11,000. So what are connected companies? How do you define if you're connected or not, depending on the levy? Well, connection applies. The company has control over another company, so over 50% shareholding, alternatively by financial interdependence on each other. It's also connected if both companies are under the control of the same person or persons. When there are connected companies, all the companies connected only receive a single allowance of £15,000 in total. The connected companies can choose the distribution of the £15,000 allowance between them all. If a company is classified as connected, the purposes of the levy, same as the employment allowance, then it is also connected for the apprenticeship levy. The decision relating to the split has to be made at the start of the tax year. You can't change it during the tax year. The £15,000 is not split 4 ways if you've got 4 companies. You get to choose which company has the £15,000 allowance. If connected companies leave, join, commence or cease in the year, you can't change the allocation of the allowance during the tax year. Also, you cannot carry over any unused allowance to the following year, so you need to use it. An example for connected companies. In this example, we've got 4 companies that are all connected. Company 1 has an annual payable of £3.5 million. Company 2, however, only has £15,000. Company 3, £2.1 million. And Company 4, £195,000. In this example, all the 4 companies only have a £15,000 allowance. They can split that however they want, but they have to do it at the start of the tax year, which it is. In this example, we've used the whole £15,000 allowance against Company 1, so that's got £17,500 annual pay bill. So you can see on the bottom line the amount of apprenticeship levy paid by each of those companies in this example. Other examples of control of connected companies. A simple example, if we have Mr. A, who owns 100% of A Limited and also 100% of B Limited. In this occasion, as Mr. A owns 100% of both companies, then A and B are connected for the purpose of the apprenticeship levy and only get one £15,000 allowance between them. Example 2. This is a typical example of a holding company that has 100% of subsidiary 1 and 100% of subsidiary 2. In this example, as Holdco, subsidiary 1 and subsidiary 2 are all connected for the apprenticeship levy, then all 3 of those companies only get a £15,000 allowance. Example 3 is getting a little bit more complex. Here we have Rosie Limited, who owns 100% of Abbey and 55% of Holly Limited. Holly Limited only owns 60% of Fred Limited. Fred Limited also has a minority interest in Dan Limited of 10%, and Rosie has a minority interest in Dan Limited of 25%. In this example, Dan Limited is not connected for the purposes of the apprenticeship levy. However, Rosie, Abby, Holly and Fred are. If we throw in another spanner, if during the year Rosie Limited acquires at least 50% of the shares in Liz Limited, Liz Limited will be entitled to their apprenticeship levy in full in the year of acquisition. However, the following tax year, the 6th of April following acquisition, Liz Limited drops into the group and is also a connected company. The 4th example, this is where we have several people having control of different companies and how this affects the connection relationship. In this example here, we have Doris owning 40%, Norma owning 20%, and Olive owning 40% of Trading Co. Limited. We also have a separate LLP, DNN LLP. Regarding the LLP, Doris owns 50%, Norma owns 50%. We've got no other relationship apart from owning shares in the different companies. So if we roll this forward, based on the definition of connection for the apprenticeship levy, you have to look at the minimum controlling combination. So if we look at trading company first, Doris and Norma could act together, 40% and 20%, to control trading company and own in total 60%. Other trading combinations, minimum controlling combinations, Doris and Olive could both own 40% each, both own 40% each of trading company, are also a minimum controlling combination because they would own 80% in total. And also Olive and Norma could own 60% in total of Trading Co Limited. So they are a minimum controlling combination. So if we look at DNN LLP, so in DNN LLP, the minimum controlling combination for that is just Doris and Norma. They own 50% each. Now, as Doris and Norma control D&N LLP and can also control Trading Co Limited, both of these companies are connected for the purposes of the apprenticeship levy between them and only get £15,000 between them. Now, paying the levy, how do you pay it? Well, the apprenticeship levy is calculated as part of the payroll process, so your payroll software shall make the necessary adjustments. Any apprenticeship levy deductions that are calculated in that period are paid together with your PAYE national insurance. So if your wages vary during the course of the year, so if there's been a bit of a spike maybe and you've paid a lot of wages early doors and then you realise that you wouldn't be eligible to pay the full apprenticeship levy, then you will get an overpayment being allocated as a credit via your pay-as-you-earn. I'm now going to hand over to Bob from Learning Unlimited.
Thanks, Tony, and good morning again to everybody. And for those of you who joined perhaps just after Tony got into full flow, we are recording this webinar this morning, so you'll be able to catch up on anything that you missed. And we'll be trying to answer as many questions that are coming in through the chat bar there at the end in 10 minutes or so's time. So just a little bit about our organisation, Learning Unlimited. We have 10,800 full-time or part-time students, plus an additional 5,000 apprentices with something like 2,000 employers. Now, you don't need to be a genius, of course, to work out that that means that most of the employers we currently work with are SMEs. But I don't know whether you can see just behind me on our slides here, you can see that we also work with some big household names such as the Post Office, Bombardier, the NHS, the Royal Mail, and so on. And we're here to say, really, that we're open for business for these levy-paying organisations, because we are a national delivery organisation with offices not just here in Chesterfield, but also an established presence in Manchester, offices in Nottingham, Derby, and most recently in Birmingham, and actually a footprint through every local enterprise partnership area in the country through our subcontractors, our delivery partners. We're Ofsted rated good, with clear aspirations and ambitions to become outstanding. And just to sort of finish off in terms of scope and scale, we're the second largest general further education college, so Learning Unlimited is the commercial arm of the Chesterfield College Group with its national footprint. We're the second largest FE college for delivery within your sector, within the health and social care sector, amongst the 16 to 18-year-old age group. So I just want to give you a vision of the future, how this might work for you as organisations. You've heard about some of the technical nuts and bolts, and thank goodness that Tony did that and not me. But how might it work for you with the apprenticeship levy and the reforms? How might you capitalise on this investment that, frankly, you've got to make? Well, our biggest client by volume is a national provider of residential care for adults. We currently work with 200 learners with this one care provider, and it's a very successful partnership that we have. Now, when people say apprentices, what often is conjured up in people's minds is the idea of a school leaver or somebody fresh from college, 16, 17, 18-year-old, and so on. Now, in many instances, that is the case. But with this particular client, many of their apprentices, most of their apprentices, in fact, the overwhelming majority, are existing members of staff who they are investing in and upskilling and training. So level 2 is going on to level 3 becoming care leaders and so forth. We are also in the process of recruiting a cadre of new hires, a young apprentice typically, in each of their services, 40 or so across the country. So why does it work so well with this particular client? Well, the way that we've set things up here at Learning Unlimited is that each of our major clients gets a single point of contact, an account manager, if you will. And our job really is to ensure that we respond in a timely fashion, furnish you with the information that you require in terms of learners and the details of how things are working or any issues that are cropping up that we can tackle together. But this particular client has seen the apprenticeship system, the apprenticeship scheme, the way it works, as a crucial and integral part of their business model, their very successful business model. And what they've done is invested in their staff, but they also require in return a degree of commitment. And so they have this scheme of PIPs, personal improvement plans whereby the staff member is penalised, if you like, or disciplined if they don't keep up with their coursework and turn up for their tutorials, that type of thing. And what it means, in effect, the result of all of this partnership working, is an achievement rate on health and social care frameworks, level 2 and level 3, that's principally what we're talking about here. An achievement rate, in other words, people achieving what they set out to do, finishing their qualifications in a timely manner, a rate of 83%. Now, to put that into context, across the whole of Learning Unlimited, the equivalent rate without this client is 72%, and the national benchmark for health and social care level 2 and level 3 within general further education colleges like ours is 65%. So it's a very successful partnership that we have. But why are we talking about apprenticeships at all? Why is there the levy coming in? Why have there been, is there such interest in the apprenticeship reforms? Why have there been these changes? Well, actually, the recent history of this goes back to sort of 2008-9, the banking crisis, and since then, the productivity gap has widened between the UK and almost all of the other G7 countries, as you can see there on the screen. Now, the UK is at par GDP per hour, or effectively per person, of 100. You can see that Germany, for example, is at 136. And as you might imagine, you'd like to think that you or I would have done the same thing. We've looked at the German model, technical skills, and thought, what are they doing so right that perhaps we're not doing that we could learn from? And that is effectively what's resulted in the apprenticeship reforms, which I'll talk to you about on the next slide. But we've also lifted this figure from the government's own Office of National Statistics, which says that for every £1 invested in apprenticeships at levels 2 and 3, there's typically a return on investment of somewhere between £26 and £28. I think you'd agree that's a significant return. So productivity soars when you engage proactively with the apprenticeship program. So this review in 2012, 5 years ago, now the Richard Review, has resulted in some major changes to the way that apprenticeships are designed, delivered and funded. In terms of design, okay, so you may think, well, hang on a second, here's a levy, a tax that we didn't used to have to pay, that's not a good thing. But there are some quid pro quos, there's something in return for this. And what's happened is that the control of the apprenticeship system has been put back into the hands of employers. So no longer will there be qualifications for qualification's sake. What's happened is that the apprenticeships for your particular industry, for your particular roles, have been designed by people within your industry, both large and small companies coming together in these trailblazer groups, and they've been tasked with putting together effectively two-page documents, two-page job descriptions, which will ensure that when those criteria are met, that the individual who's undertaken that apprenticeship will be fit for purpose and fit to competently carry out that role. That actually links nicely with the change to the delivery of apprenticeships. Now, at the moment, on apprenticeship frameworks, typically what happens is that the emphasis on portfolio work, collecting evidence, observations, and coursework, by another name, if you like. The emphasis going forward is going to be very much more on a robust endpoint assessment done by a third-party organisation, crucially. So this is graded, so it's not just a pass, but you'll effectively get merits and distinctions. And all of the changes that are coming about with regard to design and delivery are designed to improve the robustness and the effectiveness of the apprenticeship system. In terms of the funding, well, we've heard this morning in great detail from Tony about how the levy will operate and the connected companies and so forth. But in terms of paying for the apprenticeships themselves, the standards will be banded in 15 different categories. There is an upper cap. Strictly speaking, there's no lower cap, and you can negotiate with your training provider, although I would put the caveat on there that there's no, these aren't generous settlements, if you like, and, you can, it's not a race to the bottom. I would caution you against a provider that would tell you that you could do it for half the price or something like that, because the quality will go. But effectively, there are these 15 bands, and the health and social care standards are near the bottom end of the band. So the price for the level 2 and level 3 standards will be something like £3,000. There are incentives for taking on apprentices aged 16 to 18, £1,000 for both the employer and the provider, which acknowledges that there is an additional sort of pastoral support element when you're taking on young people, if that is appropriate within your circumstance at all. Because many organisations within the care sector may feel we don't want to take 16, 17-year-olds on for a variety of reasons, depending upon your what it is exactly that you do. The final thing that I'd say on this slide in terms of the robustness and improvements to the apprenticeship system is that the term apprenticeship will be legally protected to improve the quality. People can't just say we're doing an apprenticeship, we're offering an apprenticeship program, when really it's nothing of the sort. And that should help to maintain the quality even further. So really my final slide, and I'll finish with this. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to present the case for Learning Unlimited. So the way that we go about things, I've mentioned about the account management single point of contact system, which we have found to work very well with our clients, because of course it means that within a large organisation like ours, you've got a single point of entry, and when issues arise, you've got 100 learners, issues will arise. I can't guarantee that they won't, but what I can guarantee is that we will fix things quickly for you. And we want to start a conversation, have a partnership, a dialogue, and to understand and learn about your business, what it is that you're trying to achieve, what your drivers are, your ambitions, and perhaps what your challenges are, your skills shortages. Try and understand how you can invest your levy and maximise the value that you get from it. We're also offering a service whereby with our clients that trust us and know us and that we've got this good working relationship with, we could sign some sort of agreement whereby we would take a lot of the hassle away from you in terms of what used to be known as the digital apprenticeship service, now the apprenticeship service, the digital online account that Tony mentioned. We could administer that for you, put in a lot of the learner details, actually take more money out of it, and so forth. We can talk to you at any time immediately after this by way of the questions that you're going to ask, but in terms of getting back to you right afterwards, or at any time in the weeks and months and years ahead, we'd be very happy to talk to any of you about the reforms and their impacts. We help with apprenticeship recruitment, so both within your existing staff, but for brand new hires, we can do that as a free service. We'll offer this account management service. And finally, in terms of the delivery of apprenticeships, where at the moment, typically we come out as tutors to see learners in the workplace, which is why we're not limited by geography in any way, shape or form. Where you have a cluster of learners in one place, we very much are looking towards group delivery. There is a strength in that, getting the learners together into one place and making use of the sort of virtual learning environment, webinar type technology that one has. 97% of our current employers say that they would work with Learning Unlimited and recommend us to other people. So on that note, I'll hand briefly back to Tony and then hand over to you to ask any questions that you may have.
Yeah, well, in summary, thank you very much, Bob, of the presentation. The apprenticeship levy is here on the 6th of April 2017. So you're best off planning for it. The best tools that we would say is use it rather than lose it. Utilise the government top-up. You're getting 10% for nothing. Plan to spend consistently. Don't roll it all up with a 24-month deadline regarding it. There's also an 18-month deadline that the government has said that's going to come in after the 24 months. So just plan to spend consistently over that time period, and so you're not rushing to spend it all in the last few months. Use the apprenticeship levy to push training and staff development to the top of your agenda. Improve business performance and your bottom line with well-trained staff. Speak to your training provider to make the most of the apprenticeship levy. Thank you very much. We've got any questions? We've got a few questions come now on screen, so I'll answer those now. If you've got any further questions, please feel free to email us. We're going to send copies of the webinar to everyone that enrolled to look at the webinar. If you've got any further questions, please feel free to raise them after the webinar. Got one coming from Anna. I think that was going to be me.
Yes, totally. Let's go for that.
Do agency or casual staff count towards the pay bill? Well, obviously there's a big agency cost dilemma at the moment in the care industry. But what we can see on there, we don't believe agency costs would be in the pay bill amount, but casual staff more than likely would be because they would qualify for Class 1 National Insurance. Got one from Tom.
Okay, what kind of training can I use the Levy for? Good question, Tom. The short answer is apprenticeships. Okay, so it can't be for a traineeship, it can't be for your wider workforce development, it has to be a formal apprenticeship program. And further, we're often asked this, can I use it to pay for salaries or travel and this type of thing? No, you can't. It's for the provider price that you negotiate that's found somewhere within those bands. It's to be paid for that.
We've got one other question that I'll just answer on there from Brenda. Thanks for this. Do you know what will happen if our pay bill drops below the 3 million mark during the financial year? Yeah, we realise this could be a problem. Some organisations may, their gross wages may vary during the year, and that they may look like they've breached the apprenticeship levy and have to pay initially, but then their gross wages may drop into the future, and actually cumulatively they may drop below. Everything that the revenue have said so far on this is that basically, yeah, it will be done on a cumulative basis, but your apprenticeship levy will be calculated according to the amount of payment periods that you pay your payroll. So if you pay 12 monthly divided by 12, if you do breach it, but then consequently come back under it, a credit will be given you through PAYE as well. So
thanks, Tony. I had a question came through to me shortly before the webinar today. Do you have to pay for the apprenticeships all up front? And the answer to that question is a good question again. The answer to that is no. In fact, 20% is held back to the end until completion of that endpoint assessment to ensure that that takes place. Of the other 80%, that cost is spread evenly across the duration of the apprenticeship. So yeah, it's not paid up front.
At this point, I'm going to we'll obviously summarise up the webinar. We've got a couple more questions coming in. What I'll say is that we'll answer them more specifically. I think we've put specific numbers on there as well. So we'll come back to you on them immediately after the webinar. And thank you very much for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you.